Welcome back to Made Up of Wires. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, go to SOTN.z.dev where you can see the progress that we've been making so far. I just heard about a project called Starship 64, which is actually available, I think, on Steam and elsewhere, and that is a decompilation of Star Fox 64. And they are shipping all the tools you need to run it on any PC-like platform, Linux, Mac, etc. And then you provide a ROM and get a native experience. That's pretty cool. Maybe one day SOTN will be like that as well. You can find a link on SOTN.z.dev to Discord and to GitHub. GitHub is where all of the decompiled code for this project lives. We've been working on the Sword Familiar. I'm gonna try a little bit to do a little bit there today, and the functions that are left are odd in different ways. I'm not. I don't necessarily have a good grasp of what some of the techniques are for solving the remaining four functions. One of them, though, the one that we ended with on Thursday of last week, is mostly a bunch of GTE macros, so things for one of the custom graphics chips that are on the PlayStation. And I'm kind of slowly working through that. It's a combination of scratchpad use, which is unique, and then these GTE macros, which are also unique, and both of those combined add some wrinkles into different areas. Actually, this is going to be a little bit closer. This is just some debugging code that I had in there to work on a macro. So this is actually getting pretty close. I think it was around 90%, 91% last week. Mr. MIDI, good to have you. Upside down. Sometimes I feel like we're living in upside down clown world. For those that can't read the tiny chat, the hi emoticon. Emoticon? Do people even use that word anymore? Emoji? I miss emoticons. I still use them from time to time. Boomer-like. So there's a few things in here. Actually, I was working on the PSP side, but I should come back over here as well. So there's excuse me, a few things I can point out that are kind of different or interesting. And I've been flipping through these because I needed to get some macros written that are kind of funny. So if you are not familiar with C, one of the nice macros that we have in C is called offset of, and that gives you the number of bytes that it would take from the start of a struct, saying the start of a struct is position 0. How many bytes does it take to get to a field in that struct? And unfortunately, the GCC version and the MetroWorks version that are used for Castlevania Symphony of the Night do not provide this. Actually, there may be a built-in. I'll have to go look for GCC, but it's I wasn't seeing it here in decomp.me. That might be due to my built-in settings. So anyway, we can define that macro. The macro is pretty simple. Basically, it casts the null pointer to whatever type you want, and then it takes a reference to the field that you pass in, and that reference is going to be just the distance of that field from 0, which will be the offset. Yeah, reverse. That's right. That high is in the reverse castle. All right, so I'm trying to remember. In Bloodstained, you can flip around to walk on the ceiling in either castle. And I always remember movement like that being odd, much odder than just having the reverse castle. Okay, so we're going to build on this offset of. So we have a scratch pad, and the scratch pad is just a section of memory that's been pre-allocated. It's memory that I believe is on the RISC chip. I could be wrong. Usually it's used for a cache for code, but on the PlayStation, that memory is just faster memory. And so I started defining this struct that defines the layout for what the scratchpad looks like for this particular method. And what I want to be able to do is either use a reference to that scratchpad directly, and then access things by member, or in the worst case, maybe wrap the field name in a macro. And so what this gives me, first of all, I have this SSP macro standing for sword scratchpad. And that gives me a pointer, and that pointer offset is just to scratchpad 0, which is the start of the scratchpad. And that lets me do things like this. I can say SSP pointer I, and that's what I happen to be searching for at the moment. And that works like you'd expect. A pointer to a scratchpad, and then we're accessing the counter. And that can be done in any way. What I found, though, most of that works. However, on the PSP side, there are times where, actually, maybe no, it's on the PlayStation side. I'm going to copy this over because I think this is the most current version. On the excuse me, on the PSP side, or on the PlayStation side, when we do that, we're kind of calculating offsets from a particular starting point, which is that scratchpad 0 address. And what I was finding was the PlayStation was caching that main address in a way that broke a lot of matches. Excuse me. And so what I eventually came to was this SSP2 macro, which takes the field that you want. This has to be part of the sword scratchpad structure. So you pass it a field in that structure. Then it's going to calculate using the other scratchpad macros that we have. It's going to calculate what that offset is and then cast it to the type of that field through some type of magic, which then allows you to use it as either an L value or an R value, this looks pretty clean to me, better than the var SP stuff that I had last week. There may be even better ways to do this, but overall, I'm pretty happy, and it's compatible with both the PSP and the PlayStation. So I'm going to kind of go try to figure out what the remaining work is to do here, and see if there's anything we can find. So the first thing that I see is, so there is the store word is happening here. I believe that these are all part of the same vector, and I think I've tried this a couple times. And so what I would expect here is these addresses to be calculated as offsets from this symbol, and they are, but they're not calculated in the order that I want. And I'm not sure really what to do about that. That's how I'd expect it. It's possible that this D4, it may be better just to call it a S32 and assign it directly. There may be other uses of it. So here we have to calculate it, or cast it as a vector. But that doesn't really help either. And in this case, it actually makes it a little bit worse. So again, all these that are remaining here, a lot of them have addressing issues that are yet to be resolved. All right, continuing on. Most of this is actually very clean. 143, we're getting some register issues. This is a little tricky down here as well. So the first one I see is this offset 20 versus offset 24. I believe that has to do with this down here. How this mess came to be down here, I'm not quite sure. It looks like at offset 20 in the stack pointer there's some array, but it's dependent on this C8 variable, and I guess the C8 variable is either going to be hex 32 or hex 26, meaning the argument to LDV0 is going to fit in there. What is odd is this is being this array, this 2D0 array, is an array of 32-bit values, and I need to look at the get or GTE LDV0. I believe it takes a pointer to a 32-bit value. Oh, no, it takes a pointer to an S vector. Okay, so an S vector is going to be 8 bytes in size. So if we take a value that is offset there, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at SXY, not LDV0. This is the one that seems to be incorrect. And STSX0 so this is getting the XY screen, store screen XY. What does that mean exactly? Is that the current resolution of the screen? I don't know. And I don't, this document is extremely terse. Yeah, it just says store 2D coordinates. Yeah, not super clear as to what that might be. Anyway, so this looks this additional offset may not be necessary. I think I have offset 20. No, I don't have it yet. At one point I did have offset 20 defined in here, and I think when I was messing with those macros I got rid of it. So I'm going to add a new field. I'll just call it SXY, which is the screen XY. That may be like the current origin. I'm not familiar with the GTE library, and it might help to go through and review what how GTE works. Many years ago I did OpenGL stuff, So with OpenGL, I know that you would set like an origin and then draw based on that origin. And so this may be similar. Anybody in chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment. So I'm gonna get the SXY here, and let's see if that works out. It does not. Yeah, and I think this is the problem I was having here earlier is when if this is based on an array offset, then and I can change that to a S32 pointer. Oh, and it may be. Let's work through this a little bit. We're down here. So I'm using it as an array and not a macro. So the biggest issue here is that it is being, I think that because this is being treated as a 32-bit pointer, any offset into an array is going to be offset in chunks of 4 bytes. But I don't think that is what is wanted. So I'm going to try to set this to just a byte pointer and see if that changes this favorably. And it doesn't quite. So what other options are there? So one possibility, so the address load here may be correct. So the offset 20, or this SSP GTEXY, it's being optimized out to the top here. And then we're adding V0, which is already being used up here. Now this may not have anything to do. So V0 is coming from so it's assuming something of 8 bytes in size, which would be a S vector. So let's try making this an S vector pointer. And no, that's not quite right either. slightly better, but not not what is intended. All right, I'm gonna move past that, and we'll see if we can figure it out. Actually, I'm gonna take this over to the PSP side and look at it there and see if anything more obvious sticks out. I might take some time too to, if I haven't already, map some of these macros that have not been mapped yet. The reason that, yeah, this was originally offset 24 is based on this concept 24. It's possible that these are different between the two platforms. I'm not sure. What is happening here makes it seem more like this is just being loaded and not no, there's something more happening. So the or versus the load word is one piece of it. So if we're saying that this is a pointer of pointers, we may be able to get around it that way. What it appears to me to be happening here is that we're that the offset, the SP offset is being, scratchpad offset is being set up. So if I was going to write this out in like the older style of writing it out, I'd say that this is a scratchpad, or the older style, the way that most of this code would. And so I get the or here as expected. And I'm going to cast this as a S vector pointer. And then I'm going to index into it with I. And so that seems to work out. I would think that this would be a reference to this. Let's see if that works on the PlayStation side. Yeah, that works on the PlayStation side too. So this may be an issue with how I was trying to simplify the macros to make it more readable. But this works, and so that's what I'll keep. I think that this shows up elsewhere. But we will see. Yeah, the way that this gets optimized here is really difficult to see specifically where these lines are. Oh, I see. A lot of this is out of order. So there's register issues here, but other than that, it looks fine. So that is what it is. I'm going to keep going down and look for the next one. This may be something similar. This actually looks like caching addresses again. 214. And unfortunately, this is a... oh, this is a very similar structure. So let's go copy this. And it looks like instead of using D0, we're doing 866C. And that matches them. And then a very similar thing with STSXY, SXY. I'm going to try the same thing there and see if that matches there as well. That would help with this mess as well. Oh no, that's copied the wrong thing there. That's right. No. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and see what's happening here and what our type is here. So the address is being cached. Oh, it's actually not being cached like I would expect it to be. We're taking offset 1C from the scratch pad. For some reason, subtracting 5. I don't see where 5 would be for a... That would be the equivalent of 20, which is this 1C here. I don't think that is correct, however. Because this subtracting 5 is just going to get this back down to 0. So I think that subtraction of 5 may be the scratchpad offset being calculated up here and then cached and being reused. No, ignore everything I just said. Yeah, it's the subtraction for this 10 here. And I'm going to remind myself of LDV0 again. Load 3D coordinates. Yeah, so we do want a vector, but can't use offset 0 as a vector. Let's go back to the PSP version, which is kind of flip-flopping around. Both of these kind of go back and forth in terms of how close they are, and whether they're matching or not. I think that I will go through, though, and maybe define some of these offsets that are missing. So this STSXY is missing. And then we can generate a new scratch from that. So that's in the EU version of the PSP. I don't want Splat, I want the symbol table. Actually, I have to look into this a little bit as well. I made some changes, excuse me, to name some of the symbols in the game engine that were specifically related to the overlay for servants. And Sozu had a comment about whether or not that would help as we get more decompiled and can kind of get Splat out of this. Can, basically, will that still work? Is it adding a dependency on Splat when we should be trying to move away from Splat? And I thought the linker scripts, right now Splat generates the linker scripts, but I thought the linker took the symbols in as input. Let's look at that while we're here. Building is a whole nother ball of wax versus decompiling. So I want to look at symbols and where they're built. And I might have to look at the platform-specific build files. Okay, so the linker script is taking in the symbol file as part of Splat is using that to build the linker script. Got it. For a reason, I thought that was a input to the linker. I'm gonna look at this one more time. I want to see. A lot of this was in place long before I got to this project, so it amazes me what Ziynamo and Biz Murphy and Sozu were able to figure out. Many more were able to figure out for building, based on not having really anything to go on. Okay, so I was looking at some of these symbols. Yeah, so this is back to, hey Orcam, good to have you. Still working on the GTE heavy sword familiar function, and yeah, just kind of going through and trying to clean up the PSP version a little bit to make it easier to reference. This is a harder one. I think I'll only spend a few more minutes on this, and we could find something else that can be done finished today. So here I'm looking for symbols where we know the name, but I don't have those yet in the symbol table. In cases like this where the name is unknown, I don't care about those as much. Linking or defining symbols for those just gets messy later. And it looks like maybe this STSXY is the only one that I missed. Can't remember if, oh, there's this max 3. This is specifically part of the sword familiar. Oh, this connection is going really slow. I tend to keep way more things open than I need, and so it may just be my computer. Every once in a while I will check activity monitor. Something is not happy. Ooh, I left Cura open, and Cura is taking 11 gigs of memory. Go away, Cura. Yeah, no business doing that. All right, back to figuring out what else is going on. Yeah, seriously. It's definitely not a new thing, but I've always been resource conscious for like programs, and like doing things in ways that use as little memory or as little CPU or whatever as possible. That's fun to me. That's a different type of puzzle from this. And the vast majority of, I guess it would be not necessarily developers, but companies that are pushing things out on deadlines and whatever, they don't care about any of that. Let's get it out there and don't worry about it until it breaks or somebody complains. I don't actually have, so on this, on my main computer, I do have 32 gigs, which is remarkable, but yeah, 32 gigs I think is the most I've had in my main computer. But I've had 16 gigs in my computer since like 2010, 2013. And so to go up to 32 gigs after 10 or 15 years is kind of crazy that we're just this far. But what happened? I did recently though. My desktop that I'm building on, I did upgrade that to 64 gigs. I don't even need it. It's just cheap and it's DDR4, and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get DDR4 as cheaply in the future. But by the time I need it, I'll probably have a different computer anyway. So I found that normal clip. I think that's a good one. That's a new function signature that is part of GTE that hadn't been in there, hadn't been checked in previously. I should probably just look for like JAL. Oh, I can't search in this window. Okay, that looks like most of them. I don't think I care about getting rid of the history for this. So I'm going to re-export this and create a new scratch for PSP with some nicer symbols. Yeah, I think anything in the last 5 or 6 years, 32 gigs makes sense for especially if you're building it yourself. I pay the Apple tax all the time, and it's always a challenge to know, like, storage you can't replace, memory you can't replace, and so whatever you want you have to buy up front. And it's hard to, I mean, the markup on all of that is ridiculous. And so you just kind of suffer and pay it if you want to be on that platform. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I forgot. For reasons I don't know, clean will get rid of everything in the config directory. I don't think I care. As long as... what do I want to do? I will make sure that gets added first. Let's try it again. Is anybody taking off this week, or is everybody still at work? I am breaking something. I'm not sure what. Oh. My command is broken. Yeah, I think we talked a lot about that last week, how these are good weeks to work. Oh, I see. So this is a... there's something referencing 829430, but I've given that a symbol now, which is GTSTSXY. So there is other code that is using this, but didn't know that it was. So let's find what that is. And this actually gives me an excuse to check this in. I didn't have any reason to add these symbols because it wasn't affecting any existing code. But now I do have a reason. So screwed something up. Keep the version. Register 14 is invalid. Why? Oh, So here, this function will be given a. I need to go into the GTE header and make sure that this this macro isn't being defined for PSP. This is going to be kind of a mess, and something I need to clean up later as well, because excuse me, I don't necessarily know how we want to do these headers, and I'll probably bring this up with Zianimo and Sozu later. So we have all of these things that were part of the PlayStation SDK, and then my internal model is that Konami stubbed all these out into their own like shim layer, compatibility layer between the PlayStation and the PSP, and the Xbox and other things like that. And actually, they probably did this during the Xbox development, and so these aren't actually including the GTE library here. They are separate functions. Oh, come on, I keep forgetting that I need to build the PSP version. Okay, good. That builds. All right, now I can find my new function. I didn't need to do any of this because I have to call splat explicitly anyway. I never remember if it's extract or split. I'm going to try split. This is not yet in the main build config. Oh no, is it not even in my branch? Why? So I'm going to regenerate this config, and then I should be able to get this assembly. So I'm going to create a new scratch. And we'll use the same context. Which I think is mostly okay. Slightly worse, maybe because I don't have the... What else is going on? Well, I don't know why it would be worse than the other. Let's do a quick review of... Oh, there are other symbols that I don't have that I had before. Where did they all go? Okay, I think I'm done with this. Done with this function for today. I'm just going to delete that scratch and not worry about it. I will save off all this. 94%, so getting closer on that one. I don't think that unfortunately, the permuter is really going to be helpful on this. It's mostly just all of these funny macros. I do think on the PSP side, maybe the permuter could be a little helpful. I don't know, we'll see. So let's see what else there is in decomp land that I haven't really reviewed lately. A few weeks ago we finished Weapon. Several of the stages are done. There's a little bit of code left in the debug room. I haven't spent any time looking at the debug room at all. Something left in NOO. Let's look at that and see what is missing from NOO and what if we can snipe somebody's nearly done function. So I'm looking for include ASM in the NO0 stage. One function left. And we'll look for that and see what the state of that function is. Looks like Josh was working on it. It has it almost done. One stack variable appears to be missing. Then on 157, there's register issues. It may be related to this called a random, possibly being stored first. So we can look at that, the potential option. So you have any, does have a PSP scratch, so we can look at that as well. So 157 looks like, oh, there's a little bit more down. 367. And it looks like just a register issue here. Okay, a few other register issues. Let's take a look at this version as well. Definitely less close. The PSP is the better indicator of whether or not we have the right variables. The one thing that is here that is a little odd is the actually maybe not. So this S1 assignment it looks like it is an assignment, as if this is happening first and then the equality of, or the truthiness of this is being checked. The extra masks, however, would make it look like this should just be assigned 32 to avoid the those, but that does break the stack. Then it does give me this result in a register like I want. It doesn't really affect the PlayStation version, however, because all of that would be optimized out. But I think this makes sense. Oh, Mr. MIDI, figured it out already? Oh, thank you. I see. So yeah, I'm looking at Josh's PSP version. Apologies for the screen being wrong. What I was saying earlier, the original version of this, and this is completely reasonable, is evaluating this flag dead inline, and there's no reason not to, but it looks like, no, did I break my redo buffer? Yeah, there we go. It looks like this is being saved to a variable. Unfortunately, what this does is introduces a new variable, and that variable does not appear to be something that basically I need to get rid of another variable if I want to use that one. There's now too much on the stack. So here on 75, this may be it. This looks like it is a ternary for the argument. And so this is using a stack, is using the stack to store this result. Oh no, this is gonna be wrong. This is gonna be wrong. Disregard everything that I said. We have more here, though, that also I'm a little surprised that some of these haven't been mapped as symbols. I guess set step, random and set step definitely should be part of the main game engine. Animate entity might not be, it might be part of each stage. All right, so what else can I do? So in this set step, they're both, the result of that call is being stored into different registers. It's never clear to me why MetroWorks does that, why it moves values from a return register somewhere else and then ends up not using them. $160. This is the first instruction difference that I've seen. And I think that this is just the order of this edition. No, not quite. Do this. I don't think this is going to be right, though. Oh, interesting. This is different than I expected. Okay, I don't think I'm making any progress here, so let's keep going. Let's see what else. N01, there's a lot to do here. A lot to do here. I bet there is quite a bit of dupes here as well. Looks like entity red door probably could be mapped. A lot of times those have to be mapped along with their data, which can be a little bit tricky. We do have some unknowns here in 54, so let's pick one of a few K bytes in size and see what we can come across. Bunch of small things. So I'm primarily interested in these unknown segments, and I'm just going to pick one at random. This time I will switch my screen over. Often helpful. Okay, so a pretty easy entity. Let's do something a little harder. So there's some issues down here, and this is always related to the order of some of these fields, or frequently related to the order of some of these fields. So let's see if we can get this pretty quickly. So 5.2. So yeah, X, Y are usually together. I'm going to go with position X coming before those, but maybe not. Maybe not. 52 is this animation frame duration. I'll move that up one. And then move this back down. Now this is like one of those slide puzzles. Get rid of this. But we still don't have this quite right. And now we're in offline mode. A 4K function is cheating. It is cheating. This is a pretty simple one. What do I have? 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, 8 possibilities for these. The order of these assignments. All right, so we're the 5.2 in the right place. That's coming first. The next one that's being loaded is this. We're loading the offset at 1C. And I don't even see that. Okay, so that's this animation frame duration here. The plus equals 1 should load that. Maybe it's this. No, animation curve frame. So, what are our options here? I would not expect these to be separated. It is possible that these are coming in as variables. Like, for example, is animation frame duration. Being set up. That doesn't look like it. Small does not necessarily mean easy. and easy does not, or large does not necessarily mean hard. And this kind of is definitely an example of that. So if I was going to like thinking more thoroughly about what this would look like, I'm going to try taking this animation frame duration down, possibly in this condition. I'm going to do the increment down here, and this is possible as well. Sometimes using the increment operator instead of doing a plus equals, even though it's mathematically the same, sometimes that does not work the way you might think it's going to work on the GCC side. On the MetroWorks side, I think that's less so the case. Excuse me. So our first operation, I might do it this way. The first operation is a +4. Yeah, there we go. So these are split. Can I reorder these? Will I get the same thing? Okay, reordering them makes sense. They're not split. That's the root. That's probably what I should have gone on to begin with. The add operations, and especially the stores need to be in order, because otherwise they may have side effects that affect other reads. So that one's easy. We'll save that. And how much time do we have? 10 minutes? What can we do in 10 minutes? Something real big. Go up to 10K. The wall chicken. I'll do this one here. Oh, that's not going to work. Do that in T-Lux. Leave this open so I can integrate it back. Chat, do people like it when I go back and build? Is that worth doing? Which one was this? A34. I feel like doing the decompile and like getting matches for MIPS is oh, that's not what I wanted at all. Like that's important, and I think is probably where most people don't have experience and can learn. But it definitely seems like there are people who come in not necessarily having a lot of programming like project knowledge, or just like tooling in general. And so I do feel like, and when I started out doing these streams, that was something I really focused on, was like, what is the full life cycle of getting a change like this done? And let's see if I broke my build a little bit. That is because there's at least one extra C file in the sword familiar directory that I need to get rid of. Oh, so that works. So I do like going back and sticking this in a C file in place of the include ASM, and seeing it work. And the early streams, I would go so far as to go to GitHub and submit the PR for those as well. And occasionally Biz Murphy and Sozu would be on the stream, or mostly Biz Murphy, but he'd give me a PR right there and get it checked, and that was fun. Okay, so that one is done. Let's move on. Let's see if I still have that. Nope, I don't have that other one in my copy buffer anymore. It was this one. Still can't do that in Tmux. And we'll do the next one. I think Eldritch and maybe Mozilla, when I first started doing this too, they made jokes about speedrunning. And if you go check out some of the older videos, there are videos where I was speedrunning weapons. And I do I still have it written down? Yeah, it is on this. I know that I have one. One of the weapons was done in 9 minutes and 23 seconds. One of the weapon functions. I shouldn't say weapon. All right, so there are some tricks here that are less straightforward, but kind of nice to see. After spending so much time on some of that unfamiliar stuff, this is getting back into more familiar territory. So the first thing is we're taking self and then doing negative offsets into self. And what this is saying is, give me the entity before me, and then start taking values from that. So, excuse me, I'm going to create a pointer and call it prev for previous, and I'm going to do this this operation here, and this is the size of an entity is the xbc, but with pointer arithmetic that is just a -1. And I'm going to make the assumption that these are all the same fields in the previous struct. That may or may not be an issue. Some of these for 10-1, because I couldn't figure out the type, I'm going to have to go through and look up those offsets. I probably should just get things compiling though, and then worry about that. Those will need to be looked up to get this to compile. But we need to get rid of the void pointer and some of the other things. So there's a bunch of data types we don't know. We can look those up, and so width and other offsets are usually 16-bit values, and so I'm going to assume that these are arrays of 16-bit values. And then all of that will become array access, which will clean those up pretty significantly. There are these. This temp-1 can go away now. This is just the assumption that these are the same fields based on previous things that look like this. I'm going to have to go through and figure out what these offsets are. These are, I always find these tricky. These are negative offsets, and so you have to think, what is my current pointer position, and then if I subtract this value and read a word going forward, what's it going to be? This one is actually bigger by 4 bytes, so it might be the previous one. the last field in entity is a pointer to another entity. So it doesn't make sense that that would be 6, though. It's also possible that this is just bad math from M2C. So I have a couple choices. I can try to figure those out. I can put placeholders there. Any of these unknowns are going to be references to previous, or sorry, the negative offsets are going to be references to previous. Offset 56 is animation current frame. Screen, thank you. We could do that for any of those. And unknown 26 is entity ID. So that just looks like these two on line 33. I'm going to make uneducated guesses. I think that this negative 66 is going to end up falling in the extension portion, which I don't want to really mess with. And then the negative 90, I'm gonna assign that to unknown B8. I don't think that's what it is, but we'll get the offset when this is compiling. I'm just gonna choose something. I'll choose hit effect. It's not gonna be right, but yeah, it's probably actually closer to like hit flags, maybe. We'll try that. I don't think it's gonna be right, but we can fix that when the offsets start getting compiled. So I mentioned each of these I made into an array, and so I'll change this to array access, which this is the hint that's necessary. This is telling us that those are actually signed 32 values. Maybe not signed, but they're 32-bit values. The multiply by 4. M2C is not able to figure that out often. It can with pointer arithmetic, but not necessarily array access. All right, so 85%, not bad. So I could go through and fix those offsets. I'm not too worried about those. Oh, there's actually other offsets here that are wrong. I'm a little surprised. So, for example, this facing left, the offset should be A away. And so if I look up facing left, that's 14. So that's actually, looks like it should be hitbox offset? I'm bad at subtracting hex. Not quite. So I need 8 bytes earlier, which is velocity x. That seems, oh, 2 bytes earlier. No, wrong direction. Velocity X. Box offset. Velocity Y. Does that make sense? Nope. So there's something else going on here that is... it's possible that these are out of order, and it looks like they are. So let's fix that first. That's what we should have looked at first. These offsets still are very odd. So I don't think any of these are correct. So I won't be able to get a match there right now. So there's a bunch of kind of garbage here. A lot of that has to do with this block 22 and possibly some other stuff. Block 22, there's nothing really special about that. So I should just be able to paste that and get rid of the block without really getting into too much issue. And then I can replace these constants. And it should compile to the same thing. This temp A0, probably not a separate variable. It could be, but I'm going to assume that it's not. And we'll see if we're getting closer or further. Maybe a little further. Undo that and see. Yeah, okay, so it might be a separate variable. There's a few things here that are happening that may or may not be interesting. So there's load immediates that are happening and being associated with the switch itself. And we'd have to go through, so these are getting put in A0. However, there's no function calls in this. A0 is usually where, well, A0 is where function arguments are stored. So in this case, we're loading a 1 into A0 and then jumping to 1C0. And 1C0 is down here on line 79. So it looks like it's this. Var v0. Why, I don't know. I'm going to, based on other code, I'm going to change this to assigning this on either side of this condition. This temp A0 load, I think, can come later. And again, it might not even be necessary. This temp V1 is not necessary. I'm getting further away, though. So there are some challenges here, but I'm going to save these for another day. I will be back tomorrow, probably a short stream tomorrow for Christmas Eve. If always happy to have people join if you're going to be around. We've mostly been working on the Sword Familiar lately, but I think that time on the stream has come to an end as there's probably just some stuff that I need to sit and think about with that, and I probably will open it up to other people in Discord and see if anybody else wants to take a crack at some of those as well. We've been working on decompiling Castlevania Symphony tonight, just some miscellaneous functions at the end here. If you're not familiar with the project, go to soten.z.dev and you can learn more. And you'll find a link to the GitHub repo and the Discord server. If you're interested in decompiling, stop by either of those places and see how you can contribute. If you're interested in Symphony of the Night, do the same. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Merry Christmas, and I will be back for a short special episode of Made Up of Wires tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Adios.